Elon Musk may be gone from the White House, but DOGE is winning at the Supreme Court. Two separate rulings came down today that you should know about. In the first ruling, the justices said DOGE can, have access to your Social Security information and your related sensitive data. And in the other ruling, the justices said, no, the Trump administration does not have to turn over records related to DOGE, and therefore DOGE's work can remain a secret for now. So in both of these cases, all 6 conservative justices ruled in favor of the Trump administration, and all 3 liberal justices dissented. So I'm going to take these cases one at a time. Let's start with the first case that has to do with DOGE accessing your sensitive Social Security information. Today, the Supreme Court granted the Trump administration's request to pause a lower court ruling that had blocked DOGE from getting into all that stuff. Now, you may remember shortly after the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, was created, Elon Musk and his DOGE staff started rooting around in government departments and agencies looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, when they got to the Social Security Administration, alarm bells started going off. Several groups sued, trying to block DOGE from accessing things like your Social Security number, date of birth, home address, income assets, citizenship status, medical information, and disability status, just to name a few. And in April, a federal judge in Maryland issued a preliminary injunction temporarily blocking DOGE employees and its affiliates from accessing the Social Security Administration's system, and said DOGE and its associates had to delete all the personal information that they had already gathered. The judge did allow the DOGE team to have access to some Social Security information, but it was not specific to any single person. It was just sort of compiled general data. But in order to even access that, the judge said that DOGE employees had to first complete a training and a background check, just like every other Social Security employee. Well, keep in mind, this was just a temporary ruling to keep everything on hold while the facts were presented and all the issues were sorted out in court. Well, the Trump administration didn't want to wait. They appealed that preliminary injunction to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. And the Fourth Circuit said, DOGE needs to pump the brakes. This case is still playing out. That preliminary injunction will stand. Well, the Trump administration didn't like that either and appealed again to the Supreme Court. And in a 3-paragraph ruling today, the majority of the Supreme Court agreed with the Trump administration. They lifted the block on DOGE and said, we conclude that under the present circumstances, SSA may proceed to afford members of the SSA DOGE team access to the agency records in question in order for those members to do their work. Writing the dissent, Justice Jackson blasted the majority, saying, once again, this court dons its emergency responder gear, rushes to the scene, and uses its equitable power to fan the flames rather than extinguish them. And in the other case, the Supreme Court majority ruled today, at least for now, that DOGE is not required to comply with the Freedom of Information Act. Now, the Freedom of Information Act is a federal law that says any citizen has the right to request documents through what's called a FOIA request from federal government agencies and departments that are using their taxpayer dollars. Now, just because you have the right to ask for those documents doesn't mean the government has to give you exactly what you're asking for. For example, you can't get access to classified information through a FOIA request. And if your request is granted in some part, probably sensitive information is going to be redacted. Well, in this case, a watchdog group filed a FOIA request to DOGE, asking for documents related to what exactly DOGE was doing and who exactly was working for DOGE. Lower federal court said, of course, DOGE should be turning over those documents because that's a legitimate FOIA request. And they said that DOGE's administrator can be deposed. Well, today, formally, the Supreme Court said no. For now, the DOGE administrator does not need to be deposed, and no, that watchdog group cannot have the documents it's requesting from DOGE. The Supreme Court majority said the request needs to be more tailored. Now, this case is going to go back down to a lower federal court for more litigation. So if you want to read either of these rulings from the Supreme Court, I'm going to email them both out to you in tonight's Facts HQ email, so make sure you sign yourself up.